The strongest person in the room is often the one who never wanted to fight. Not because they're weak, but because they understand something deeper about power that most people never will. Son Gohan was never driven by pride, ego, or the hunger to prove himself. He didn't crave battle like Goku, and he didn't chase dominance like Vegeta. Gohan represents something rare in this world. A being born with overwhelming power, yet burdened by a heart that seeks peace. And that contradiction is what makes him one of the most misunderstood and powerful characters ever created. From the very beginning, Gohan was different. As a child, his power would explode in moments of emotional intensity, not because he wanted to win, but because he wanted to protect. That's a completely different energy. Most warriors fight to conquer. Gohan fights only when something sacred is threatened. There's a psychological depth here that goes beyond anime. It reflects a real human truth. True power isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It waits, it observes, and when it finally moves, it's unstoppable. Think about the moment against Cell. Gohan didn't step into that battle with excitement. There was hesitation, even fear. Not fear of losing, but fear of what he might become if he let go. Because deep down, Gohan understood something most warriors ignore. When you tap into your full power without emotional control, you risk losing yourself. That's why his transformation into Super Saiyan 2 wasn't just a power-up. It was a psychological breaking point. It was the moment a peaceful soul was forced to embrace destruction, not for glory, but for survival. And that's the core of Gohan's philosophy. Power as responsibility, not desire. He doesn't wake up training to dominate others. He studies, he reflects, he builds a life outside of violence. In a world where strength is often tied to identity, Gohan refuses to let power define him. That's rare. Most people, once they realize they have an advantage, whether it's intelligence, talent, or physical ability, they build their entire identity around it. They need to be seen as powerful. But Gohan, he doesn't need validation. And that makes him dangerous in a completely different way. Because when someone who doesn't want to fight is pushed to their limit, they don't hold back. There's no ego to protect, no reputation to maintain, only purpose. And purpose is far more powerful than pride. Pride hesitates. Purpose executes. That's why when Gohan finally unleashes his full strength, it feels different. It's not flashy. It's not performative. It's precise. It's final. But here's where it gets deeper. Gohan's struggle isn't just external. It's internal. He constantly lives between two worlds, the peaceful life he desires and the violent reality he was born into. That tension creates something powerful, a mind that questions, that reflects, that doesn't blindly follow instinct. In psychological terms, Gohan represents the integration of power and restraint. He's not suppressing his strength, he's choosing when to use it. And that choice is where true mastery lies. A lot of people misunderstand Gohan because they compare him to characters who are driven by ambition. They see his lack of constant training as weakness. But that's a surface-level interpretation. Gohan isn't trying to be the strongest at all times. He's trying to live a meaningful life. And when strength is needed, he rises to the occasion. That's a different type of warrior, the kind that doesn't burn out chasing dominance, but instead conserves energy until it truly matters. There's also a powerful lesson here about identity. Gohan was raised with two conflicting influences, his mother pushing him toward intellect and stability, and his father representing limitless physical potential. Instead of choosing one path completely, Gohan exists in the middle, and that creates friction. But that friction is what makes him human. It's what makes him relatable. Because most people aren't purely one thing. We're a mix of contradictions. We want peace, but we're capable of aggression. We want comfort, but we're built for struggle. Gohan embodies that duality. And let's be honest, there's something incredibly powerful about someone who doesn't need to prove themselves. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, trying to dominate, trying to win, Gohan steps back. He doesn't chase attention. He doesn't fight for recognition. And yet when the moment comes, all eyes are on him. That's not coincidence. That's presence. That's quiet confidence. That's power that doesn't need permission to exist. But there's also a warning in Gohan's story. When you neglect your power for too long, even with good intentions, you risk being unprepared when life demands it. We see this in later arcs, Gohan becoming softer, less disciplined, not because he's weak, but because he prioritized peace over readiness. And life doesn't always give you the luxury of choosing when chaos arrives. That's a real-world lesson. You can desire peace, but you must still be prepared for war. Not because you want it, but because responsibility demands it. And that's where Gohan evolves. He begins to understand that power isn't something you reject, it's something you maintain, even if you don't use it every day. Because your strength isn't just for you, it's for the people who rely on you. It's for the moments when everything falls apart and someone needs to stand firm. That's what separates Gohan from most characters. He doesn't see power as a personal tool, he sees it as a duty. When you really break it down, Gohan's story is about restraint, responsibility, and purpose. It's about understanding that just because you can dominate doesn't mean you should. It's about knowing that real strength is measured not by how often you fight, but by how well you control yourself when you don't need to. And when the time comes to act, you act without hesitation. So the next time you think about strength, don't just think about who trains the hardest or who fights the most. Think about the one who carries power quietly, the one who chooses peace but is capable of destruction, the one who doesn't desire control but will protect what matters at all costs, because that is a different level of power.